Welcome everyone, this is the Tekken 8 Lee Basics Guide. This guide is meant for beginners or intermediate players looking to quickly pick up a new character, so expect a brief rundown to jumpstart your learning and get you playing some matches. We will keep technical lingo, especially frames, to a minimum, but you should still have some knowledge on basic standardized Tekken terms, especially notations and terms for various game mechanics. In other words, although this guide is meant for beginners, you should already know a little bit about the game, just not necessarily the character. There are some links in the video description below to help you out. Similarly, make note that we are on version 3.01 as of this recording. Update videos will be made when newer videos with balance changes come out, so be on the lookout for those as this video ages. But enough of all that, let us begin. Generally, you're going to lean on two types of moves for your offense, pokes and keep out tools. Let's start with pokes. For Lee, the jab strings are very strong here, particularly 1-2-2 and 2-2. Both have a nasty final hit that you can confirm off the mid, but that also represents cover even on block, albeit it is a risky choice to finish it. 2-1 is similarly good with high, mid, and low enders. The mid is worth highlighting as it will launch on counter hit, but while it is risky on block when done from the string, you can do it solo as 1+2, and that version is safe. 2-1 and 1+2 also have entries to stance, which we'll talk about in a few. From here, you have a wide array of pokes to choose from. For lows, the main ones are down 3, down 4, down back 3, down back 3+4, and back 3-3. You'll see down 3 and back 3-3 the most, since the latter is your high damage option that also gives good pressure on hit, and the former is your very quick evasive option that still gives okay pressure on hit but can also yield a launch on counter hit. But you should mix all of them in since they all require different responses from your opponent and will give them more to think about. For instance, down 4 leads both to additional low hits as well as his quick standing 4 string, so it's very good at nabbing easy counter hits for impatient players. On that note, for your non-lows, you can certainly employ the standing 4 string, which has a few different paths, some of which can yield significant counter hit damage, but you also have some great mid checks with down forward 1, which is a classic simple poke, standing 3, another safe mid that has a confirmable second hit for some nice damage, and down 2, which is also safe, gives good damage and advantage on hit, and a free follow-up on counter hit. You have some string options as well, like back 1-1 and forward 4, both of which start high but have really nice powerful follow-up options. And if you want some more traditional pressure tools, forward 3+4 and running 3-4 both do some hefty damage and give advantage on block. But by spamming your pokes, it'll entice your opponent to swing back, which is how you get your counter hit tools going. It's offense almost by way of convection. And Lee has some of the best counter hit tools in the game just for this reason. Forward 4 is quick, safe, rangy, goes under highs, and yields a combo on hit. Back 4 is very similar. It's slower, but it's homing and also gives advantage on block. Back 4 has a huge hitbox, also safe, has stance play, and will yield a combo on counter hit. This is one of his best tools if you actually want to play real defense and turtle up for a minute. Forward 3 is a powerful mid engager, also safe, rangy, and quick. Forward 2 is very similar, but it's high. However, you can get a launch on counter hit and it gives advantage on block, so it doubles as a pressure tool. Then you also have the classic down forward 2, a safe quick mid launcher. Remember too that you can use some of the previously mentioned pokes for counter hit purposes as well, like down 3, standing 4, etc. None of this is particularly complex, but what makes this element difficult is that counter hits require timing or setup. So if you hit someone with jabs and then follow up with a down forward 2, if they mindlessly swing into it, that's a pretty easy setup. But if you're just moving around the neutral, then you have to have a read on your opponent's timing. So keep that in mind as something you have to develop to really make Lee shine. And his 2 stances are merely an extension of this style as well. Misstep only has 3 moves, and although 2 are lows, they're evasive in nature and won't give the big damage unless counter hit, so that's of course what you want to hunt for. Similarly, his hitman only has a single low, which is a bit on the slow side, but again has that evasive quality and will net that bigger damage on counter hit. The other hitman tools are either meant for interrupt, like the jab strings and his armor move, which also doubles as an anti-step tool, or they are evasive in nature, like hitman 2, up 3, and up 4. And aside from the low and the launcher, these are all safe on block, so he can counter hit fish pretty safely from Hitman. But for both those stances, there are numerous transitions from neutral attacks that you should experiment with, since those are the moments people will want to take their turns. You can even mix and match in a sense. For example, back 4 can transition to Hitman, so you can play keep out into more keep out, which is fun. Lastly, we'll mention crouch, since it is a little more mix-up centric, and you have some easy ways to get there, like down 3 or forward 3+4, or even canceling Hitman into a crouch. damage. When there, you have 2 solid lows with your slide and full crouch down forward 4, both of which go under highs, do solid damage, and will knock down on counter hit. So again, still that big counter hit potential. And then for mids, while standing 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all good. Which you want will depend on risk tolerance. While standing 4 and while standing 1 are your safe pokey options. While standing 3 is your riskiest but fastest option, and while standing 2 is kind of a balance between the two, and it has 2 different enders, one safe and one unsafe. Or you can risk the hop knee to try to get a launch. Otherwise, play that quick, annoying pokey style and wait for those counter hit opportunities. First, for pure punishing, Lee is probably the best in the game on paper. He has the best jab punisher with 1-3-3-3, which gives a free follow-up for basically damage of a mini juggle. But he has a strong easy option too with 1-2-4. His new 4-4-4 is almost as quick and gives you a quick engager option, only slightly slower. You have both forward 1+2 and down forward 4-4, both of which will wall splat, and another engager option. Only a little slower than those, you have forward 2-1 and back 1-1-2, so more powerful splat options, and then after that you can start launching with down forward 2, up forward 4, or forward 3. So if anything, Lee suffers from too many options. His crouch is a lot simpler but still powerful. His while standing 3-3 is very strong, and few characters have a rising punisher as fast as this, so he can punish or challenge things many characters cannot. A little slower, you have both your while standing 1 and while standing 2 strings, then you can start launching with hop knee. And all of these are applicable to whiffs, which again just emphasizes the scare factor of his punishers. Now for counter hits and evasion, we already mentioned a lot, since of course he uses this stuff for his offense. So down 3, down forward 2, forward forward 4, or just plain ducking will be great for anti-highs. Up forward 3-4, up forward 3+4, hop knee, and forward 3+4 are all good for anti-lows. And then again, once you're in stance, especially Hitman, you have a bunch more evasive stuff to choose from. Beyond that, he does have a punch parry you can incorporate at times, which is fun. He does have a singular armor move in back 3+4, and it's in that category where it's a high but safe on block, which makes it really strong. And that's it. The important element is to observe what kinds of moves your opponent favors when trying to challenge you, then pick the appropriate counter. So keep those eyes open. So we haven't mentioned it yet, but you've probably noticed that Lee is filled with just frame attacks, also called simply JFs, which is merely to say that they require strict timing to execute. This is certainly a barrier to entry for playing him, since those JFs give some combination of better damage and better advantage on hit or block, but these are also relevant to his heat because he has no special heat moves. Instead, when the meter is running, you don't need the correct timing for his JFs. You'll get them every time. Now the twist is that if you don't get the perfect timing, it'll eat some of your meter. However, if you do get the correct timing, you'll gain meter back. So if you get those timings down, not only are you benefiting without meter, but once you activate, you can extend your time indefinitely. And you'll be covered for those rare moments where you might drop the timing. It's not as impressive of a heat mechanic as other characters, but you can still make use of it. Oh, and he's one of those characters that has a low heat smash, so you get that too. As usual for these guys, we will skip juggles since there are so many combo videos out there you can watch, but I did throw a link in the video description below where you can find some samples. Lastly, let's talk about chip. In general, pretty much every move that gives him advantage on block will also yield some sizable chip, the JFs being in that list. So even some simple running 3-4 or forward 4-2 spam, that will give you some nice mileage with the chip. However, again, if you can get the JF timing down, you'll really see the value on block. Even if something is punishable, you might still walk away with some chip damage for the effort, so put the time in for that. This brings us to the end of our guide. I hope you found this succinct and helpful. Feedback is always welcome, so feel free to toss a comment down below, respectfully of course. Be mindful that in-depth guides that go over more specific details of move attributes and strategies will be saved for intermediate guides in the not so distant future. So be on the lookout for those. Lastly, big thanks to our patrons. You guys are the best and that support means more than you know. But to everyone, stay safe and we'll see you next time.